All right, welcome to another episode of Big and Stupid Game Reviews. I'm Stupid Jay.
Big Mike.
And we are going to do a second review today. Yep, this is going to be our second review for the day, instead of waiting for next week, because we're too excited.
We are too excited.
Or Mike is too excited, I should say, to review this game.
Binary Domain!
Holy crap! And I guess the first and most important thing about what's great about this game is the way it looks.
Yes.
This is one of the better looking games on console. Definitely top 10 in my personal opinion.
It looks surprisingly good. When I turned the game on and the Sega thing came up, I was like, oh crap. Because Sega stopped making games I liked about 15 years ago. But once the game started, I was like, wow, this looks good. That's it.
This game has a really good tutorial.
Yeah.
And I always like to talk about tutorials because, sure, it's a shooter. I know how to focus aim with the left trigger and fire with the right trigger, but I always want to know how to throw a grenade, equip certain weapons, and for this one, the nanomachines, which is basically kind of like a buying and leveling up system. You know, I want to know how to do that stuff, and this game was really thorough. And the beginning, which was really different from a lot of other games, you were doing so many different things, and it was also a really good way to do a really good tutorial.
Yeah.
Except for the one part that was strange about it was there are little quirks in the story which I think are lame and retarded. But for the most part, don't get me wrong, this is an awesome story. Really cool. I mean, it's not going to blow your mind of how, like, that is an amazing science fiction thriller since Alien. No, I mean, it's a really good story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
And, but like right in the beginning, he's just like, you want to do the tutorial? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And he's just like, well, you are a super soldier that's been a Green Beret and Special Forces and everything, so use your trigger to shoot your gun. This part we could kind of skip. You know, he's just like, don't forget to walk. Okay. You know, but, you know, that kind of shit's a little lame and laughable. But for the most part, I really like the controls.
Yeah.
The cover system is one of the better cover systems. Thank you, Cuervo, for once again helping the English language. And by that, I mean mumbling.
I'm the only one who knows the English language on this show.
Well, maybe. So, but the cover system I really liked. A little pet peeve is I can't really like slide into cover.
Yeah. But
I'm used to that from like Army of Two and other cover-based shooters that I really like. But definitely one of the better cover-based controls.
Yeah, I was surprised because I don't like cover-based shooters, but
you can leap over cover easily. You can mantle easily.
Yeah,
jump back and forth between covers, super easy. Yep. You know, and for the most part, that's how you're going to survive.
Yeah. Unless
it's a boss fight, in which cover is pretty much useless.
Pretty much.
Pretty much fucking useless.
Yeah. Well, then, yeah. There were some things that bugged me about it. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But
what else is good?
I don't know why I like this game. I don't like games like this. But there's something about this particular game. It doesn't take itself seriously. Like, it's a fine story. It's not, like you said, it's a fine science fiction story. It's nothing mind-blowing.
Pretty serious story.
Yeah, but the voice actors, they had to have been doing it on purpose because not every voice actor is going to be... But everything sort of gets delivered in a B-movie, sort of... There's some silly stuff. Dan says a lot of just weird off-the-wall things. All the characters are not pretty stereotypical, really freaking stereotypical.
Yeah. Even a little racist.
Well,
who calls the Chinese girl rice farmer girl? I mean, Jesus Christ, man.
No,
I mean...
No, what?
And then they think, like, oh yeah, you're gonna call me rice farmer girl? Yankee?
Yeah.
Like, we don't get offended by that.
No.
We really don't. Well, we don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know, but calling a Chinese woman rice farmer girl, that's pretty fucked. That's a little fucked up.
Well, she was a rice farmer.
She was a soldier since she was 14.
Yeah, but she grew up on the rice.
Did she?
Yeah.
I don't remember that part.
No, she was a farmer.
I just remember they thought she was a porn star. I remember that.
No, she was a farmer.
Okay. Well, I knew she wasn't a porn star.
Yeah.
I remember they hoped she was.
Yeah.
But that goes to the character. Fuck.
Botang?
No, the character
Yeah.
like they're retort with each other.
Oh, yeah.
They're back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they all intermingle with each other, it's fighting yet getting along.
Yeah.
And it's serious jabs like, you know, you're a fuck, you know, and you're pissing me off. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's kind of like, ha ha.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of really good character iteration like that.
Well,
that was really good.
The characters had that dynamic.
It's well written.
Yeah, it is. It's well written and goofily like acted, but it works.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take itself seriously. That's my problem with a lot of these shooters. They take themselves so seriously that it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Like the games are supposed. I keep saying this, but the games are supposed to be fun. And when you're, when everything's gray and bleak and everybody's depressed and the only thing that's keeping me going is maybe my wife is still alive. Like that.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a fucking break. There's a little emo part towards the end, but it gets over with pretty fast. The game looks. One of my favorite things about the game is you start off, and it's nighttime, and you're infiltrating this thing, and it's dark, and you're in the water, and then you're going through here. And then you go through the slums, and then you go through the sewers, and then you go into
the utopian city.
The upper city, which is bright and colorful and sanitary and
filled with people.
Yeah, and then you get into this big building, which is the robot headquarters of the world, basically. So it's how you sort of would think that a place like that would be. The receptionist is a robot. There's I actually saw janitor robots. There's robots doing the work.
There's bartenders or waiters.
It's what you would think, but again, it's not gray and brown. There's one level it's gray and brown because it's the sewer.
Yeah.
But other than that,
the slums were dirty. And,
the slums were dirty.
But they had neon lights, which was kind of neat, and But no, every level looked the way it should have been.
Yeah.
It wasn't very uniform. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I felt in the building. It made perfect sense the way it was, but I felt after being in there for 3 hours, I'm like, all right, I get the point, And that was one of my problems with how lifeless it was, and there were certain parts where it was like that where I'm just not fooled.
But the building was also evacuated.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying,
the only thing left there was the robots.
Yeah.
There were no people.
Yeah, but I mean, there's other parts too. The CG sequences when you're flying over the city and you don't see people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even look like it's filled with life. It looks very cookie cutter, and I'm just like, I'm not even believing that's a city, And
I think you're thinking of Syndicate, by the way.
And the car chases. You're like, all right, we're escaping.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's no one on the highway.
Yeah, there was nobody on. There was nobody on the highway.
I know it's not a major complaint, but it's like they went that far. It's very impressive when you get to the city for the first time and you see all these people, they're eating and and robots are doing jobs, people are having conversations, and you're like, cool. I feel like there's some life, but it's one of the few times that happens in the game. I know it's not a major gripe, but it's one of those little things. This game, I love it and I hate it, and it's another one of those things where it's like, just those little tweaks that they could have made, could have made this an A game to an A plus, game. Because let's throw that out there right now. Did you know this game is out?
No.
I mean, did you hear anything about this game coming? It's not getting any publicity.
No.
They're not really pushing it.
And that's too bad.
Because it's one of the better looking games.
It's a really good game.
It plays well. It does what it's supposed to. But
look at this cover. Have you ever seen a lamer cover? Down? Still? Is that good? Can you see it?
Yep.
Look at it. It looks like a Sega Genesis cover.
Yeah,
nobody's gonna see this on the shelf and then go,
that looks badass.
I need to buy this game.
I get to carry a guy?
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's why we're telling you. That's why we're trying to tell you about this game.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not without its problems.
Well, no game is without its problems.
Of course. So maybe I should start with my bitching now, which is no secret. What the fuck are you doing?
No,
man?
that's me. That's me.
Well, in that case, what the fuck are you doing,
my
woman?
text message thing is Beaker from the Muppet Show singing opera. So go ahead.
Wow. You shouldn't like make that kind of crazy loop to a guy who's been drinking tequila all day. You know, it really just blows the mind.
Okay.
So,
sorry.
But, you know, I've explained this to you before, is the on-rail sections. There's not a lot of on-rail sections, but I fucking hate every single one of them. The slide in the beginning, it's fine, it's cool, and I understand it.
Yeah.
You're sliding down this watered ramp, and you got to try not to hit these pillars, and it's kind of hard to control. Okay, yeah, I understand it.
Yeah.
But the on-rail shooting section, the car chase, it just infuriated me to the point that I screamed. I threw the controller across the room. If my wife was home, I probably would have been divorced that day. Luckily, neither one of my cats was killed when throwing lots of horrible objects. But
how many horrible objects do you keep in your living room?
And when I'm mad, especially at a video game, and drunk on tequila, anything I touch is a horrible object. I mean, I could be throwing the bottle, I could be throwing the controllers, I could be throwing whatever dildos are laying around.
That's what I was thinking when you said horrible objects. I was like, do you just keep dildos lying around on your couch?
Look around. How many do you see? I can count at least 4.
Whoa. I didn't see that one.
Or at least several objects that could be used as dildos.
Alright, well,
for example.
Nobody needs to know about your dildos. Okay.
So, but the main problem too is they really went for a realistic aspect, which is fine and cool to a point. But when Dan gets hit, which is the main character, when you get hit, he stumbles. He's like, oh, okay, cool. I get it.
Yeah.
But when you're doing the on-rail sections and you're in a car that's swerving, and he's moving, and then he gets hit with a bullet, so now he's like, in the swerving car, and then I have to reload.
Yeah.
Your reload will get interrupted if you do anything.
Yeah.
If you get shot, if you move, do anything. So I'm doing this, I'm getting hit, and I have to reload, and then that's getting reset constantly. I'm barely getting off bullets. And you have got to be one hell of a deadeye during those sections while doing that's the kind of insanity that happens. And I failed that car chase with the police 8 times easily, all because of that insanity. Now there was other sections which I also hated, but that was easily the worst one. Now there's not a lot of on-rail sections, but that section I really hated.
Yeah.
The other sections, the QuickTime events, I didn't really feel they were necessary.
No.
I always understand why they're there, and I don't mind mini game versus of like, I gotta open up a door, tap A a couple times. No problem.
No.
I'd rather deal with that though than watching the slider bar.
Yeah.
And then watching it close this fast, and you're like, and then
if they would have happened more often, it would have been alright. But it happens like 4 times, and you never know when it's gonna happen.
And then
that was my only problem.
Yeah, and the other one was the one where you have to shoot someone in not really slow motion, but it's a QuickTime event basically.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with that. It's good and bad because these cutscenes are really good.
Yeah.
And the game itself looks really good.
Yeah.
That sometimes when it goes from cutscene to control, where it's you, sometimes you don't know.
Yeah,
and the shooting part, I didn't know because it looks so good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, Dan's gonna shoot this individual. Oh shit, that's me. And I fucked it up, and I had to watch the sequence all over again and do it. And that kind of stuff, I understand it makes you feel like you're more immersed in the action, but for me, I'd rather just watch it.
Yeah.
You know, or the QuickTime events, they're not enough to really help.
Yeah.
And that little stuff could have made it a lot more enjoyable for me. And it's good. And don't get me wrong.
Yeah, well I that part that you were just the car thing, I actually enjoyed a bunch because it was it was more realistic.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be hard to shoot moving targets out of the back of a car, while the French guy's dying and you're bumping and you're reloading. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. So
all I'm saying is it was too ridiculous. It was too much.
Well, I didn't die.
Especially with the boss fights. I mean, which cover means nothing. But when you get hit and you're like stumbling around, you're getting shot even more, and you're constantly falling over. And it kind of, really sucked. And the boss fights to me are all over the place. There are some that are really good.
Yeah.
And then there's some which I just found completely annoying. and not fun.
I thought they were all basically the same. Shoot the armor off of the drive shaft, blue glowing things, and then shoot the blue glowing thing. No big deal.
Well, you're really taking it down to its basic right there, but
that's all it is.
There's like 2 or 3.
You're thinking about it too much. It's a video game. What are you gonna do? You break the thing off and then you shoot the glowing thing.
Well, the motorcycle boss was completely different. Yeah, you're shooting the glowing stuff, but it's weaving around. It's doing different maneuvers. It's coming up and around, which I thought was a good boss fight. Yeah. I thought it was long, but I thought it was a good boss fight. The spider, you ran around a giant circle, basically.
Yeah.
The chandelier boss, you basically ran around a circle. Yeah. The last mech, you ran around a circle.
So you run around in a circle, shooting the armor off, and then you shoot the glowing blue things.
Except for the blind one, the one that goes blind. That fucking thing was totally different.
Oh yeah, that was
cool. And the saber-toothed cat one was totally different.
No, you shot the armor off and then you shot the blue thing.
That thing ran all over the place.
Yeah, but you shot the armor off it and you shoot the blue thing. So basically, you're getting a cover-based shooter like Gears of War, which you've probably played, but it's more colorful, the characters are more interesting, the cover works better than Gears, and the characters aren't as slow. You get pretty simple boss fights where you shoot the armor off and then you shoot the glowing blue thing, and then you get a really good game that not a lot of people know about.
It's long. You get a long.
It's a nice long game
for a shooter, especially, and it doesn't get to the point where you're like, wow, I'm bored now. In this, it really does a good job of moving you along through the game. There's a couple slow points where you're like running, and all of a sudden it's like, let's stop and talk, and you're like,
well, that sucks. Everybody's used to that by now.
Well, again, it's a shooter cliche that should really disappear.
Well, it's not going to, because it's what people are used to, and people who play shooters don't like different stuff. So, buy a domain for $60. Give Sega some money, because apparently they started making good games again.
Well, also this has multiplayer. Invasion mode, which is basically a survival mode, 50 waves, hard, difficult. I gotta cover this stuff, man, because you're not gonna do it for me. So,
no, it's alright. I'm just gonna... Go ahead, talk about the multiplayer.
So, 50 waves, difficult, not infuriating though. I definitely had fun playing it. Definitely played with a good character work gamer that I'm going to give a shout out to, which was Fire2308. He was a good player, and he was fun to play with, and good players should always be recognized. All the other multiplayer modes, team deathmatch, and 2 separate teams, which are other modes you've played before. Capture this, capture that, do this objective, do that objective. So you've played them all before. So, I paid $60 for it. It's fine, but I'm not going to get any extra use out of it, because I'm not going to play the story again, and I'm definitely not going to play the multiplayer because it's pretty lackluster. So, no, maybe 40, 35 for me.
Okay. I don't usually enjoy games as much as I enjoyed this one, so I'm going to say you do the 60, because it's... But don't buy it used. Give Sega the money, because I swear to God they used to make good games, and apparently they're doing it again. So let's show them that we're pulling for them. We're pulling for you, Sega. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to this channel. Why didn't you do that? Do it.